Elise, hi.
Hi, we're here.
Hi, we're here. That's Elise Keller,
And that's Elizabeth Wight.
and this is Theology.
Theology.
Theology. And we're back. Elise, we did one without you, and it was, well, I mean, it wasn't terrible. It was wonderful, but it was terrible that we were without you.
I know, I missed you, and I love Jen.
I know.
And I was bummed to miss that conversation.
We talked about you a lot. You will hear when you get to
Well,
listen.
I know, I can't wait to listen. It's on my tomorrow while I'm doing yard work. You
I
ladies
mean,
will
I
be on
just
my
published it, so you're cool. Like you're so
I'm
excited
just, yeah,
now. Like, yeah.
yeah.
No, but it was fun. We had a great talk. But you were missed for sure. So I did explain, I spoiled your story. I said that you had got, I was like, look, it's the season, it's seasonal in that it's spring summer and she's got stuff to do, she's got
Yeah.
projects, and that you were like you were a DIY call-in floor refinishing rescuer.
Yes, I was doing so like I've said before, I'm in Ohio and we don't get a ton of great weather. So like as soon as May hits, it is on like Donkey Kong. There's always so much to do, and especially like around this house. And then on Sunday, a friend of mine, they just bought a house, and the house is also a big fixer upper, and she's like panic calling me, texting me like, "What am I doing about these floors?" And I'm like, I got you. I've now polyurethaned one too many floors, so I know what we're doing. So yeah, a jack of all trades that day.
All right, so I'm gonna, not right now, but I need to
Yeah,
pick your brain about that because in my studio, we're working on, it's just a wood floor that's painted,
yeah,
and I don't have the budget to put down floor yet, but I'm thinking
yes.
about some options. So I'm going to talk to you about options because
Okay.
I got ideas, um, but yeah, that is a skill. So I've done some flooring stuff, but I have never done polyurethane. That kind of scares me. That's impressive.
Don't be intimidated. Like I have the most, you know how I love to say like drunk history? I have a drunk history approach to basically everything that I do. I'm just like, well, let's just take a stab at this and like see how it goes. And I actually it's funny that you bring this up because like while I was texting her and I found this video that I had sent to my brother about about polyurethaning and like I'll send it to you. It's me. It's very me, like obviously,
I
and I'm just
love that.
dumping polyurethane all over the floor, and I'm like, it's just as easy as this.
I mean, it looks so fun. It looks
It
so
is.
fun.
It is like honestly, aside from like we refinished all the floors and the sanding was the worst.
Not fun.
Was the worst. Like would absolutely never. I never ever need to do that again. But the actual polyurethaning or like staining something, I love that because it's like that's the final product. You get to see it. It's instant gratification. Like as soon as you wipe it on, you're like, this is gonna look fantastic. So
Oh, okay.
you could do
All
it.
right.
I believe in you.
All right. I will. I'll trust you.
All
I'm
right.
considering it. Okay, I have something I was saving that I found out yesterday that I was saving to tell you here because I could easily tell you everything in our messages, but it's not like a
Yes.
big deal. But the retreat, the silent retreat I've been getting ready. I've been trying to
Yes.
book. It's booked.
Yes.
So
What? Okay. When?
okay, so July 8th through 11th. I
Okay.
so it's at Iona House, which is really cool. I think I sent you the website, but I can share
You
it.
did.
This beautiful place in Placerville, so up in the mountains, the foothills in California, and
It sounds like a dream.
so neat. So they sent me this like list of like kind of what to expect, and it's like you have the rhythm of prayer, and I asked like I don't know how long, basically like I should go, like how long do people do, and I was like 1 night, 2 nights. She said 3 nights if you can swing it, and I was like, that's a long time away,
It's a big commitment.
but she said to get in the rhythm of prayer, and I'm like I'm what I need it, like I need it. I've been burned out for so long
Yep.
in the midst of like spiritual something, like something is happening and I don't know what, I don't know where God's sending me, like my body needs this,
You need the rest.
like, so it's so I was like, you know what, yeah, like I'm just gonna do it, like it's gonna be in the foothills, it's gonna be kind of hot, it's not as hot there as here, but it's still hot, and
Yeah.
it's in July, so they're like little cabins, individual kind of cabins, like you have your own kitchen.
Okay.
It's really nice, I appreciate that.
So you
um
don't have to bunk with somebody that you don't
no,
know.
no, and so it's not, it's a personal retreat, like now it's at this place that is like there will be maybe other people, there are people that kind of are like on longer term, like 12-week like maybe sabbaticals, you can go take your
Yeah.
sabbatical there. There are the people who live there and run it, who's like a priest, and like and I think his wife, maybe, I'm not actually sure what they are, but they connected me. So Father John, so my pastor reached out to them and said, I want to connect one of my parishioners, because it's in our diocese, which is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know we had something like this. It's, a couple hours away, but it's not bad. And so one of the things they do, they have like, we have the daily office. So it's the prayers, but it's like this. So it's morning prayer, midday prayer. I don't know. I think they probably have compline and evening prayer. So like 4 times a day. And they have like a little chapel that's very cute. And you go in and you do you do prayers in chapel. They have a silent time where everybody is silent in the afternoon. I'm going to do silent. Like, there's an option to do a part of the retreat silent. And I don't know. I'm going to talk to them about like 1 to 2 days of it. I want to do, they also offer spiritual direction and confession. I've got hangups about confession. It's not like it's done in the Anglican Church, but it's not required. And I have a lot of like hangups about it. So I haven't done that yet. That's a possibility. I do like the idea of like maybe for my first time not doing it with somebody that I am friends with, which is my friend. And like I don't know. I just feel like we have such a small congregate. Like, everybody here is my friend, and I feel like, so they have spiritual direction, which I could really use talking to somebody again that's like, my pastor's doing that too, but like a different way. There's like a little bit more distance, and like it's just about that. We're just there about that. There's work. Like, you can work it's agrarian, so you can go like work in the vineyard, work in the garden.
I love that.
I'm so excited. I have my stuff, my physical stuff. If my respiratory situation is bad and it's outside and whatever, and it's too hot, then I will do other things.
Right.
I'm like, and you don't even have to, but like that's kind of the way it runs. Like, it's run on a gift economy.
Sure.
It's okay.
It's like a tiny utopia. Like, it's like
right?
It's it is. It's like a perfect tiny microcosm of like, this is how it should be and like could be in theory.
Well, and I think gosh, I didn't think about that. It's kind of what that is. It's like a little taste of heaven. And it's okay. So today's the 6th. It's just over a month away. So
right.
I'm like, okay, I have something to look forward to. Like, I feel like refreshed just knowing it's coming.
Exactly. Like, just having something to be able to focus on and like work towards, and
and just know, because there's no Wi-Fi.
I know. I'm going to miss you for 4 days.
I know. It's going to be a lot. I was like, oh.
It's going to be weird.
It's going to be so weird. I told Chris, like, I'm going to check in once a day so you like know I'm okay and know everything. Yeah. But like, no Wi-Fi. You're not, I'm not bringing my computer.
Yeah, I feel like that alone, like just being on vacation and like leaving your phone, if you take a beach vacation, for example, or something, like I find it so easy to actually decompress. Like, I turn into a completely different, like, I'm so type A and I'm so like anal about everything in real life. And then when I go on vacation, I'm like in vacation mode, and I find it so easy to disconnect.
How amazing that you can do that. That you can do that though. Like, that's hard. That's hard.
I know, because like in your day to day, whenever you like, it's hard to even get up in the morning, and like your first instinct is to pick up your phone. It's so dystopian and strange, and like I can't believe I don't know, like I can't believe I'm this attached to, like, obviously it's wonderful for this sort of thing, but like I don't know, there's something disturbing about how connected we all are, and it's unnatural. So anyway, I think it's
what I like. It is because I do my like quarterly go to Airbnb for a night by myself. It's really expensive to do that.
Yeah.
It's now Airbnb, like it may be $120 a night, but it's going to cost me $300 overall after the fees and everything.
Yep.
That's so hard to do for like a one night away. Like,
I know.
And like I turn off my phone.
Sure.
Completely. I do, but that's like a very short time. But I still do whatever I want. Like, if I want to play on my phone, I do. Like, I don't talk to people, but I still play on my. I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
Thinking, like, I wear these.
Yeah.
Like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like, I really do. And I've actually been trying to less. I've been like, if there's anybody else around, I don't wear them. Like, I'm trying to just be, sometimes it helps me to be okay. So like sometimes I have to, but I like trying to wear them less. But I'm like, I'm fine not talking to people, but I'm listening to an audiobook or listening to a podcast or music. all
all
time.
all the time, like all day. I find it hard to even like even at night, I feel like my brain is still going, and I'm either like there's either a song stuck in my head and I'm like I can't even turn this off. It's like it's internal at this point. And I'm telling you, it's like Taylor Swift said, like she put narcotics in all of her songs, and that's why you keep singing along. And that's how I feel. It's strange. I don't know.
But I
So I
think
think it's
want to
really
be
important.
it. Like they want to, they need to be, but they like don't want to. And I don't think this is everybody. I think we are maybe like it's a lot of people, and I think we are maybe especially that way because we have very busy minds. Like that's
Yes, and I always want to be like learning something or doing something, but it's like rest is so important. Rest for your brain is so important because like you hit a wall and you're like, I can't look at one more thing. I can't even like we were supposed to do this yesterday and I was like, Elizabeth, I can't look at my computer for one more minute. Like I physically can't do it. Like there's no more bandwidth here.
and like I think I said I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
I was like,
I can't do it either. No.
I was like, I can't either. And today has been a totally different kind of day.
Yeah.
And so like there's space for it. I feel like so actually last night she sent that paper and I was like going, okay, I really hadn't thought about like 3 nights, 4 days with like no electronics. Now I'm
It's a
gonna
big deal.
books
Yeah.
and I haven't given a ton of thought to like because I want to study a bunch of things. I want to pray, but like just rest hadn't even occurred to me to just also not go with an agenda of something to learn, a book to finish, something to write. Like, no, I actually.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
It's like
I probably need to do that. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah, no, just relax. That's probably it.
Yeah, but you can't. It's so hard. You're just like, programmed to like, oh, I should be doing something. I have to be doing something.
Yeah, and so that's gonna be interesting. And so it forced me so last night I just did I normally have headphones on or my phone when I do like a breathing treatment.
Yeah.
It takes like 40 minutes. And I was like, I'm gonna just like not
I'm just gonna sit.
Like nothing. Just sit there and be like 40 minutes of that. And I was like, if I can't do that, and I'm gonna go do 4 days.
Yeah.
And it was fine. And you know what? I finished and immediately went to sleep. Like I fell asleep immediately. So it was like, oh,
like I needed this. I needed the rest.
Maybe 30 minutes without electronics before bed is a good thing, like people say all the time.
So we are doing this thing at the gym that I go to. I go to Orange Theory, but they're running like this program. It's called Push 30, and it's just a 30-day. It's like a light version. You've heard of 75 hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a light version. It's like 30 days. And one of the things that you can choose, I think you have to choose like, I don't know, 4 of them or something, but like one of them is 30 minutes before bed, no electronics. And I have like a tiny bit of anxiety about doing that, that's how you know that like, okay, this is a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that was my Lent thing. Like I wanted to do, and I failed just absolutely miserably. Like every night I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then, I mean, some nights were okay. And then, but most nights you just, I don't know. It's some sort of like self-sabotage because you're like, okay, it's finally time that I can do what I want to do, and what I want to be doing is like scrolling on Reddit. I don't know.
Right. And it is, and that's exactly where I'm like, well, I'll be like, well, no, I'll do something good. I'll read from a book or I'll do something. Yeah. And I'm like, but you know what? I'm still just cramming information in my brain.
Yes.
Every second. And like
every second.
What if I just didn't? Like, what if I
know.
And I got hooked on listening to podcasts and books while I water and while I do chores because it makes it go faster. But like, when is there? Like, I like to be quiet. I like to not speak, but like, I'm never getting quiet.
Same.
I'm just in control of the noise. That's 100%. Not the same as quiet.
It's not. No, it's not the same. And so a friend of mine who my mom works with, they were having a conversation about God speaking to people, and like how some people like really feel like they have heard him audibly or heard something or whatever. And my mom was like, God doesn't speak to me. And this girl said to her, maybe you just aren't getting quiet enough to listen. And that hit me because I don't, for sure. Like I do not. I'm always listening to something, I have something on somewhere. Like, even if I'm not really even paying attention to, even with work, like if I'm editing work, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, well, while I'm editing, I can still be listening to something else. It's
My
like,
gosh, I do
why do
that.
you have to do that? You don't have to listen to anything else. You could just do your work.
I sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do this work because I can't listen to something while I do it.
Oh, I
Like
know, I
design
know.
work, I can do with
Yeah.
something. Sometimes I get if I'm doing something really technical, maybe I like need to have something that's just music,
Yes.
not something that requires me to concentrate. But for the
Right.
most part, if I'm just being creative, anything can work. And in fact, sometimes it helps to have my brain sort of like turned off because my brain is somewhere else, so I could just be creative like with my hands and my eyes. But
Yes.
sometimes, but it's like sometimes my brain might work better if I focus on one thing.
If I just actually shut up, like just shut it down for 2 minutes. There was even
Like
a
a
time
minute.
where I was like, yeah, I'm like, oh, well, I can listen to like classical music while I'm working. Like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, just work. Like, just do the
Just
thing
do
that
your
you
work.
don't have to be
Like
trying to focus on two different things at once.
I think it's a little bit like it's a neurodivergence for sure. It's in there, but
Yeah.
like yeah, I also actually this is fun because this fits into our I think this fits into our topic really. So like it didn't even do that on purpose, but I do think this goes into our topic really well because we're talking about the mind. But I just was thinking that like I it's really funny. I don't know because you weren't on the call for God Talk the other night or for book club. So we were talking about screw tape. We finished screw tape letters, and so we're doing another book. And so, of course, I keep suggesting books, but I suggested Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools, and they were into it.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. And I think that that's where I first read in depth about listening prayers. And you remember during Lent, this was what I was doing is moving through. And at the end of each chapter, there's like a practice. And I in Lent, I was doing those. And so listening prayer was one. And I think I asked you, like, what is listening? What does that even mean? So I don't know if I took this too literally, but I literally am quiet and I like listen as if I'm trying to hear something. So where you're
Like, you're actually listening
which
for.
I'm not listening for something audibly, but I don't know how else to make my brain listen than to
Yeah.
tell my ears to listen. Like, I don't know.
Yes. Like, listen, like pay attention.
Right. Pay attention because you can't think if you're listening for something, what do? You stop, pause,
Exactly.
you stop. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, just the act of doing,
Like,
of
you're
being like,
tuning
I am
in.
listening and tuning in helped everything else stopped. And I kept having to do it again. Be like, no, wait. And it only worked if I could do like act as if I was listening for something and like this is probably not what he meant, but if I was actively physically listening, it
Yeah.
allowed my brain to listen. And that was the only way I could get there.
I like that, and I might have to actually, I might have to try that.
It worked really well. Our brains are the same. On the inside, there's just
Yeah.
one that's, you know, slightly different expressions of the same brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not surprised. But it really, I was like, this is so silly and so literal, but it works so well.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I loved it. And it's probably like he's like if the author heard how I took it, he'd be like, that's not what I
That's
was.
not what I meant, but if it works for you, it's fine.
So today what we were going to talk about, and this leads perfectly, and we've been talking about this for like since we started. It's our 10th episode, by the way.
Oh, it's our 10th anniversary.
Happy 10th anniversary, Elise. I didn't get you anything, but
Well, technically, it's really only 9 because I
you were there
wasn't.
for one. So it's only our ninth.
It's only 9. So next one will be.
So this is my 10th. This is our ninth. So
This is our 9th.
okay, fair. But we've been talking about the
Yeah.
mind, the body, the spirit, the soul, because
Since the beginning.
because those things are confusing and sort of get conflated.
Yes.
And like we conflate them. And some of that's because like there's what the Bible means by those, and there's what like English language means by those, and what the Vulgate meant by those, and what the different translations meant.
Right.
So that's the first part is really breaking this down. Like that's kind of how I approached this prior to this was thinking about like how I want to define the mind, the body, the spirit. Like I've heard so many different explanations of like our soul being like actually physically a part of our body. Like there are so many theories, and I definitely have my own theory, of course, because I also have opinions.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
don't know. It's like there's a lot. So like do you have like an angle that you wanted to go after, or should we just jump in?
No, okay. I don't have an angle, but where I land, like where my overarching theme is that we are a soul with a meat suit. Like we are a soul, but we have a
Yeah.
body.
That's a good, that is like the metaphor. It's sort of like the hardware software metaphor.
Yes, and we can go with that because I feel like that translates well.
So there's, I mean, both of them work because I actually, but here's the thing, I don't think either is correct. So there we go. We have some place to start.
Yeah.
I just think it's slightly more, I do think it's correct. I think there's another piece is what
Okay. Yeah.
okay. So um, I'm going to go with the computer thing. So
Okay.
first of all, I'm going to use mind and soul interchangeably.
Okay.
So the way I look at it as, because the Bible frequently says body, spirit, soul.
Right.
So body is like
Body.
whatever, right?
Physical.
Physical, but it's also our brain and our nervous system.
Yeah.
That's important. That is where our mind and soul. So, okay, because our thoughts and personality and stuff can be kind of described in anatomical, like your brain is more like this, and there's more activity in this area. That like I've heard Christians say, like, well, maybe the soul really is a function of the body. It's not to say that we don't have souls, but they're a function of the body.
Sure.
And so it's a little bit, it's like a little bit different than like there's like the external thing and then there's the internal thing. And I'm like, I kind of get that. Like that seems kind of right. Like that's your mind. It's your personality. It is impacted by your genetics and your nature and nurture and everything. So, but like there's this irreducible part of you that is
Yes.
the spiritual part that I do not think is shaped by that. That is not your personality. It's not your intelligence. And that is your, like, that's your immortal, we say immortal soul, but that's not biblical. It's your spirit,
Agreed.
I think. Like,
Agreed.
so like,
That's the part that belongs to God. And I feel like when we talk about being made in his image, like we could talk about the characteristics that we share with him, but that's the part that he gave us.
right. Yes. Like so he built us. Okay. So here's this scripture, 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Now may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. So sanctification perfects all of the above, right? Like I also loved Matthew 10:28, and do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul, which tells me for sure there's something here that is more than a function of your body. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. So this gives me like afterlife ideas and ideas about like the soul thing. I don't think the soul can be purely a function of your body if killing your body doesn't kill your soul.
Agreed.
Like, so now they could be, now soul and spirit could be like mixed up in there a little bit, but you know
Yeah.
how the Bible uses it, maybe our translation.
Right.
So, but I guess for me, I kind of think of the soul or the mind, like the spirit is the thing that God created that he knew that is like, but it has to be expressed through our DNA. It has to be expressed through this physical body and through our
Sure.
mind. So like, but our soul and our mind is how we express it, right? Like that's how things are expressed. This is where they're expressed. Our soul mind is how they're expressed, but like but that's like the filter for our spirit.
Yeah.
Our spirit, like there's so much more that our spirit could do and know and feel, but right now it's filtered through our experience of our, and so it's filtered through our intelligence and our ideas and our philosophies and our DNA and our even our mental health issues and our like whatever
Yes.
and other people's ideas. And then then there's like the physiological things that cause you to express things like whether you're tired or hungry or cranky or it's like, but there's this irreducible part of you that's going to live forever if you're a believer. Like that's what gets eternal life. I mean, I'll come back to it because I think your body does too. Like I think your body ultimately does too, like Christ. But I guess I'm thinking of things as three. So what I want to figure out is like how would we use them? Okay. I'm trying to apply the computer software hardware metaphor to this.
So would you be like a trichotomous, like a soul, spirit, body person, or are you a soul slash spirit dichotomist body?
I think try. And I think for a couple of reasons. One, I think that the Trinity lends itself to that.
Okay, same.
So that's why I feel like the Trinity. And so that's why I kind of feel like the soul is the bridge between the two.
Okay. So, and you might have an opinion on this and maybe you
Yeah.
don't. I don't know if I do. I don't know if I do. Maybe as I say it, I'll come up with
Yeah, but let's hear.
Okay. Every person has a soul. Is every person filled with the spirit? Filled with a spirit?
Yeah, because our spirits can go like yes. Are we
I
all
agree. Okay.
with the Holy Spirit? No. But
Okay,
with a
yeah,
spirit,
that's where I am.
but yes, with a spirit, yeah. I think our spirit is what ultimately animates us. Like ultimately what like our soul and body couldn't, I don't think could function without it. Like without the
Okay.
spirit.
I feel the same way, and I feel like you can be filled with different spirits, obviously good and bad. Like when I think of spirits, I obviously like your first connotation is like it's a bad spirit, like the spirit of fear or the spirit of anger or
Right.
something. And I was gonna say there was this when I was sick and like I was trying out all these different doctors and uh, medical professionals and whatever. I was being muscle tested and like I went through the whole gamut of things, right? Like I was trying everything. So, and I know you relate, and I know there are plenty of women listening who also relate. And one of the things that this practitioner did with me was like muscle testing, but she was testing my there's a name for it, and I probably should look it up because it's an actual it is based in science. There's some amount of frequency that your heart actually gives off, and depending on like she was correlating it to like how there are a lot of people who are chronically ill, and this frequency or whatever it is much smaller, like the radius is much smaller, and there are people who have a very strong radius, and that's why some people, and I like we all experience this, when you walk into a room or someone walks into a room, you can literally feel their energy, and it can bring the mood up, it can bring the mood down, or just even when you get that feeling, it's like a spidey sense or like a gut feeling. And I feel like that's your spirit. Like if I had to like define, that's not really a definition, but
No,
like
but
if I had
I
to
totally
describe
agree.
it, but it's not your soul, that's your spirit.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
because it's the spirit is like a ghost. I mean, like we think I'm not saying that, but that's like what we think of, right? It's the
Yes.
disembodied spirit. So that
Yes.
the spirit still exists without a body. And I'm not talking about like ghost
Right.
specifically, but like that concept. So I guess for me, if
Hologram of you.
like the body is the hardware, the computer, the mind and soul is the software that's running on it. The program, God is the programmer, right?
Yeah.
Like he designed all that.
Yes.
But the spirit is like the internet.
It's
Okay.
AI.
It's like, yeah.
It's AI.
That's
It's
weird
fun.
now. I'm gonna go with the internet because that's too creepy for me. No, but because like it exists outside of this. It
Yes.
exists, but it is something that can only be expressed through our software and hardware. You can't just open your eyes and look at it and you have to have a way to access it. So that is
I
a
like that.
powerful metaphor, but it is a functional metaphor. Like, you know, so I mean but still it's not great. But I think it's not great because it can't be like we're not going to have a complete metaphor for this because it's life. Like this is such a incredible thing, but
Right.
your spirit, uh you know, like sometimes your spirit does resonate with somebody in a good way or a bad way, and like there is a lot you can tell. I think what I think it is that our soul, that's all the stuff that makes us, that by our biology, our neurology, our mind and thoughts and concepts, probably either dampen or strengthen how much we project of our soul and how much we can even access. So everybody has a spirit. How many people are in touch with their spirit?
Right.
Their best self, the part that God like made you to be.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are so cut off from it.
Agreed.
And we cut ourselves off. One of the ways we cut ourselves off with it is by constantly having information coming in.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say,
that when
what
I
are
said
the
it,
ways
like,
that, yeah.
How could you? I don't have to listen to my spirit coming through my brain because I'm listening to other people.
You're drowning it out. And that's one thing, again, like it's one thing that spirituality does get right. It's like your higher self, like that's what they call it, right? Like your higher self. It's getting in touch with your higher self. And ultimately, that's what they're talking about. Like that is what they're trying very hard to tune into. And like one of the things is like get quiet. Like you actually have to get quiet. And
yeah.
And of course then the focus is like all about you versus like if you're looking at it through a biblical worldview, you're trying to get quiet so that you can hear the programmer's voice and not just you being like, you're doing great. And like everything you're doing is fantastic.
Yeah. No, you need a little diagnostics. You need to run diagnostics from time to time. There's this like, so I mean, if we talk now about this condition of sin being an illness, right? Like we take that, like it is something that our bodies contracted, right? And arguably our soul. So I think our soul can clearly go on without us because like when our body dies, because your body and soul are destroyed in hell, right? So I think your body isn't destroyed. Your body probably never goes there. Your body just keeps rotting away in the ground. Like our bodies get resurrected. Their body's gone when they die, but now they have a soul. Their soul goes, and that, I mean, it says is destroyed. I don't know how else to say that. So I guess the idea is that your spirit then goes on to be tormented forever, but I don't think so. I have a feeling when your body is decayed and this is me being universalist and heretical, let's just say that there's this possibility out there that once your soul is burned away, that what's left now is the soul that God intended for you to have. And that soul, I don't know, Christ came to save us all. So he wanted to, and I personally, I would give Christ whatever he wanted. He wanted to save us all. In my opinion, go for it. Like, do it. You can have us all. I give you permission to save every one of us. So I'll speak on behalf of Adam or something. I don't know. So like, there's that idea. I think when we are in our resurrection, so like the idea then would be you die, your body dies here on earth, your soul and spirit go to heaven. So you're still like the being and your personality and your thoughts and your ideas, right? Like they're both of those. And your soul is uncorrupted. If we're believers, our body, our soul are like all those are uncorrupted. It's very clear they're uncorrupted, and that's like you can't take that back. So like you have this is going on, this is happening, but you have I don't know, you live on, I guess. But if you say are not a believer and you die, then your soul goes to hell, like wherever, it goes through a purifying fire. I think we're iffy about how hell is actually spoken of, but there is purifying fire for sure. So whatever kind that means, there is this purifying fire that it will go to. If you choose separation from God, you will be allowed to be separated from God. And so that will go on, but your body dies. So that it's not physical pain, like it's not physical torment, like for sure, because your body's here. Now believers will be resurrected in body, and then we'll be given like the glorified body like Christ had. So like we'll have another body that'll be made of the same stuff, but like, it'll still be separate. But I wonder like what happens to the soul in between, because I'm going to get kind of weird again, but like we had our first.
We got to get weird always.
Okay, so weird. All right.
I'm looking something up as we speak.
Okay, so we had like the angels and the principal all lived before us. There was a whole civilization and a whole storyline before us, right?
I want to look something up. Yeah, go.
Okay. So that happened. There's this whole thing that happened before us. This world came and ended, and like they obviously had free will. Because so then we had free will and we sinned, and so when God destroys everything and starts over, it's the angels too and redeems everything. I said this the other day, I think in one of our little voice messages. Will we not have free will? Or will our souls be perfected to the point that they won't corrupt us because sin will be taken out of us? But like, if we sin again, will it come back? Like, I'm thinking that this is where the change has to take place.
Okay.
Because so we don't do this again. I'm sure like God's going to do something. And again, now I'm getting really weird and out there, but like I just
No, and I'm looking
something
something
that he can purify.
I feel like
He's purifying
it's
in
in
us.
the vein, like whenever you said that, I was like, oh, I
Okay,
want
so
to bring
good.
this
Now
up.
what were you looking at?
I don't know. Hold on.
I don't have it yet. Okay.
I
All
don't
right.
have it yet. Keep going.
I'm gonna keep going. So okay, what I'm saying is like when Christ died on the cross, he healed this virus that is in us. So now when we die, death has been cured, so our soul doesn't die. Like our soul, our body will be resurrected. It goes on. So if all those things are blameless, I guess that's it. Like all sin has been removed from them because sin is like a thing that's attached to this life. And so all those will become blameless. But I do believe in the new heaven and new earth after Christ returns, we will be resurrected. We will have bodies again. But I still believe that angels have bodies, like they're spirits, but I believe they have bodies. It's probably bodies that we can't necessarily perceive. It's not that they're not there. They're not physical even, but we may not be able to because of frequencies, because we can only perceive so many frequencies. And that's the whole world is that like that's not woo, that's physics. We are all vibrating at different frequencies, and there are frequencies that exist that you can't see, that the naked eye can't perceive, but are there. So I guess that's my thought, is just that like they are not as different from us as we think. I believe that they have minds and souls and bodies as well. And so that like makes it just, I feel like taking it out makes you rethink how you think about our mind, body, and soul. And that it's not always going to have these like limitations, I guess. And so like, will they be more unified? Will they work together better? Like that's the kind of thing I feel like it's going to smooth out. But I don't know.
Right. Like there's not going to be so many competing
like
ideas because we're going to have a common goal.
So like our hardware is going to be perfected, our software is going to be perfected, and the internet will now not be the internet. It'll be like something much, much better and cleaner and pure and working. Like everything will be working, everything will be perfected. But like, okay, I want to hear your idea, and then I want to talk to you about this, like this one other idea of how I functionally think this could actually physically work. Because yes, I even have a small, very working theory about this.
Okay, I was gonna ask if you had an opinion on soul creation. Like, do you think? And I was looking up. It's in Job when Okay, hold on. I'm still trying. Okay, it's Job 15, and it's Eliphaz. Is that his name?
Eliphaz.
Okay. He's kind of like tormenting Job, you know. And he says, "Are you the first man ever born? Were you brought forth before the hills? Do you listen in on God's counsel?" Shout out to God's counsel because we love to get weird with it. "Do you have a monopoly on wisdom? What do you know that we do not know?" Anyway, so he's asking, like, were you around at the beginning of time? And so, do you have an opinion on when does the soul get plopped into your body, or is it created all at once?
So, I mean, the soul, I think, develops with the brain and heart and body. I think that it's created at the same time. So I believe that but I guess the spirit is the ageless thing. Like I feel like the Bible says, like, I knew you when I formed you in your mother's womb. So I feel like that's when we become. But like, I don't know if that means when we become the human that we're going to be, because that's when our soul and brain start to develop, or our spirit. But I don't think our spirits necessarily pre-exist birth, because I mean, not birth, but conception. I just don't know. I mean, maybe momentarily, like God, God, and what does time matter? But like, I don't think we have like an existence, a pre-existence existence, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I just wondered if you thought we were all floating around in the
Body
ether.
spirits waiting for bodies. No, Mormons believe that. LDS, they.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So really interesting how it works. So
I'm still looking for one other thing because I don't know, it might fit in.
yeah. All right.
Of course, it's a Michael Heiser thing.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'm dying to know what it is.
Okay.
So the interesting thing about LDS, how it works, while you look up that, I'll tell you, like,
Please.
if you like attain celestial kingdom.
Okay.
So that means you were, I don't think you have to be born in the covenant, but so that would mean a family that was already sealed, but you're sealed in the temple. You've been baptized, you've done the things, you've paid enough money, you've baptized the dead, you've fulfilled all the requirements that, like, you can get into different levels. There are different levels of heaven, but if you achieve the top level, you will be married to your spouse for life. Your family, I don't know what happens to your kid. They say God will sort that out in the eternities, but then you get your own planet and you are the God. God is the God of that. Their husband will be the God of that planet, like the God of our world. The God of our world is just the God of our world.
Okay.
Oh, they believe,
okay.
And so we will have our own. We'll be the God of that world, right? If we achieve a certain level. But the women only get to have spirit babies. Your whole job is to populate, to birth the spirit. So you're a gestational carrier for the God impregnates you. You have babies, and then they go down to live on Earth, on your planet. And okay. They live there, but then when they wait and they find the perfect family, God decides what family they go to. And good ones get to go to Mormon families, and bad souls get to go to other families. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Until 1978,
okay.
They believe that all souls, like the souls on our earth, were created, have been waiting because the mother and father have been there for a long time. They believe in Heavenly Mother too. They just don't talk about her. She doesn't get any worship, but she does exist. She birthed them. She birthed all the souls. But so there was the Great War, and the people that fell, the angels fell. That Black people were the ones who sat on the fence and didn't fight for good or evil. There were people that went to evil, and they're evil. I don't know who they are. There are good people who fought on the good side in pre-existence, and Black people were the ones that saw it on the fence, and so God charred them, and that is why they're Black. So Black people could not attain the priesthood, could not attend in the Mormon.
This is a
1978, and then they have continuing revelation, and so Christ comes to them, to their apostles specifically, and tells them. Okay. So Christ changed his mind about that. In 1970. I'm very glad he did, but they don't say that anymore, and they buried it, but you can find it. It's all over. Like, it's in books. You can find it online. Like, this is not a secret. This is not a conspiracy. That's just what they used to believe.
Wow. That's wild.
Until the 70s. So I could have the year wrong a little bit, but I don't even think I do. I think it's 78. Like, if anything, it's 68, but I'm sure about the 8. So, that's wild. So like, they have this whole idea about pre-existence. That's not biblical. I don't think it really says much about that, but I think there's a lot of reason because of that. Like, I knew you then. And like, also, we weren't present at the beginning of time because God asked, right? Were you there? No, you weren't.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's clear. Exactly. He's clear about that. So this is what I was looking up, and I feel like, I don't know how I want to relate this, but I was looking up, shout out to Michael Heiser. Every episode, have to shout
Got to. I forgot
him so much. He talks about the characteristics of God, like being an imager of God, and like what that means. And the way he phrases it, and these are my own notes, so like the notes are not great, and I'm sure that I can find his actual, like, how, because I was typing them.
I love that you were able to find your own notes, though. That's great.
I know. Yeah, I know. So he talks about it as it's functional versus having a quality. So it's like a verb versus a noun, and I feel like that ties into this. Like, I feel like it ties into like your soul.
Tell me, what is a quality versus a
So the things that fail the criteria are consciousness. So like if you're in a coma, does that mean that you are no longer in the image of God? No, because that's not what it is. Or your sentience, or your intelligence, or your emotion. And he also talks about having soul slash spirit, and he uses the Hebrew nephesh and ruach, which is ruach is animated life, and nephesh is the breath of life, I believe, if I can read my notes correctly. He talks about having communication, having a conscience. None of those things are qualities of God. That's not it, because you can be missing those things and still be an imager of God. You can be without emotion, you can be without intelligence, you can be in a coma, you can not be able to communicate, you can be without
Okay.
um all of those things. But the way he describes it is um long pause, sorry.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I love he says it doesn't matter if you're a few cells old or lost your memory in a coma, you are God's imager. So I don't know why I can't find
So he says he's considering soul and spirit one.
he does.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't. I think they're separate.
I think it's like a nuance separate. So like I can see how, yeah,
Right.
I tend to think too. I mean, partly because not that the Bible couldn't be like still talking about two things when it uses
Right.
three words because it's the Bible, but like, it could, but it does so often say soul, spirit, body.
Yes. And the way he has talked about it is like material versus immaterial. Like I think that's the way he categorizes it, which I get, and like I understand why people look at it that way. And I don't know um like church history on this. Like I feel like this is very nuanced. Like I think this is not, I mean obviously this is not like like a I know you said it's you can get heretical with these things because we
Yeah,
sometimes
but
do
I
get
mean, you'd have to
heretical
be
with
pretty far out to like.
our right. But
I'm
yeah, I
getting
don't know.
heretical when I get universalist because
Yeah,
when I get potentially universalist, but I like to be
yes.
clear. I'm a hopeful
Hopeful.
universal particularist. I
Yeah,
hope that Jesus will save everyone, but I know it's only Jesus who can save anyone. That's what I mean. That's all I mean by that. But
that that's a perfect way to say that. I like that.
yeah, I like have never been able to say that so concisely in my life. So there we go.
Yeah,
That's so good.
you were meant to say
It's
it.
good for now.
But yeah, I don't know if there's like an official church, and by church I mean, like did the church fathers
His
have like
fathers
a
have ideas, but
this
yeah.
yeah, like this is what soul is and like this is what spirit is and this is I don't know. I have not looked into that.
So I have a little bit of a, it's not exactly that, but it's about how we have gotten our ideas, some of our ideas about the soul. Um, and so there's, there was a, about Isaac Newton, of course, so he has Newtonian physics, which made a lot of sense, in the beginning, and we've now found isn't necessarily true, right? But so there are things like the second law of thermodynamics, there's gravity, there's all those things. So he like created this system of physics that was very observable, and it was rules, and it is really
Sure.
interesting how the rules apply, like how things fall at the same rate, like that's crazy. Like that stuff is really neat. Understanding how things would fall in a vacuum, like I that is very intelligent. He was brilliant. But later on, another there is a there is an ideological, I don't know what they call it. When it's called Laplace's demon.
Okay.
It's funny that it's a demon, but what it
Yeah.
is it's like so the idea is that because Newtonian physics are so precise with a sufficiently sophisticated intelligence, which this is centuries ago, so he wasn't thinking of AI, but it's
Okay.
sufficiently intelligent. And this is not about consciousness, but it will be. I will tie it back. Consciousness could take at any given point in the world, if they could take in the size, location, and like all the dynamics of everything in existence, like where we are, how fast we're moving, what we're made of, like could predict everything else that's going to happen for all of time.
Okay.
As of physics, because physics actually rules everything. So
Sure.
then in physics, if Newtonian physics is the be all end all, then the universe is a machine and it just works like it works. And so that seems to be the case until you get into now quantum physics really disproved a lot of that, and it disproved it. It was kind of like begging the question. It was like the exception explained the rule so often was what happened in quantum physics. But one of the things that later, I think it was Max Planck, the physicist later, who started kind of figured out that no, it was, well, I don't know. There's another fella, but who determined that really if you okay, here's another demon, another Maxwell's demon, and I don't think this is Max Planck. I think it was a guy whose last name was Maxwell. Max Planck came later. But and his was that actually second law of thermodynamics is true on the whole, on average, but like the particles are all actually moving, not exactly the same. It's like overall there is, so his idea is that like by having things moving at a specific, you could basically take all these particles in a room and have
Okay.
a filter that only allows a certain size and a certain speed, and you could separate things out with the atoms by size without adding any force. So basically it disproves on a micro scale, and I didn't do that justice, but it disproves on a micro scale second law of thermodynamics. But on average, statistically, like we say, statistically, 1 in 3 people are going to die of this. That doesn't mean that 3 friends sit in a room and one of them is going to die of something. It means statistically, right? That's why statistically 2.5 people can have something happen, like because it's it's an average. So it's actually not true. Things aren't predictable. All these things on average, but because there are so many factors that can happen within that, and then entropy doesn't happen. We know about how long, for instance, how long something's going to take to decay. We know how bodies decay. We know how that is. But like, even if we knew the temperature and we knew how many bugs were near it and we knew the size of the body, we couldn't predict exactly the rate and order in which they decay down to an atomic level. We couldn't, because there's randomness. Because entropy isn't just things breaking down, it's things becoming more and more chaotic. Things can't become more and more chaotic in a world that is a machine that has incontrovertible laws.
Yes.
Okay. In a world that is a machine, we have no free will, because everything there's no morality possible, because you only did what you were determined, what you were supposed to do. So it's materialist, it's this, and it's Calvinist. they're the Calvinists of science, right?
Yes.
So this mindset has stuck around, even though we've known for almost a century this is not truly how things work. We have kept this idea that so we have this idea that everything is predictable because it's machine. The Stoics had the idea that everything applies to logic. Like everything is like there's logic and there's and who was the group that believed, maybe it was Plato, I don't know, there's another group of people that have this philosophy that everything will wants to be has a desire to express the thing that it is. So a flower wants to be a flower, and so when it dies, dying is not natural for it. It's decay. It's not ideal. It's not what it's supposed to do. It's just a thing that happens. Yeah. Whereas in the totally materialistic Newtonian, although the person who I heard describing this said Newton would not have subscribed to this. For one thing, he was a Christian and he definitely believed in free will. It's just that it's got such clean rules that it's able to be applied so easily that other people did, which is actually how it's not perfect. But so this actually brings about free will, because there is everything is predetermined in that. But we know that we're not in a machine. We know that a scientist, even given all, and now we have AI. Now we've been able to see AI.
I was just gonna bring that up. I feel like this is where you can 100% tie in AI.
This is where AI comes up.
And AI actually gets spiritual, and they have admitted that. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what this is. It should be predictable. It should not be getting more chaotic. And it's
getting more chaotic really fast.
Yes.
Did you see that Google AI? If you that now when you Google it, first gives you an AI answer, and it's being there are problems with it because if somebody asked it, should I leave my toddler in my hot car? They're like, yes, you should always leave your toddler in a hot car.
Right. And I feel like this was in the news. I don't know, maybe like probably over a year ago, but it was CERN. Like it was CERN that was talking about this, and they were the. I remember looking at these articles, and CERN was literally talking. The way they were describing it were ghosts. Like we are, like we are somehow funneling. Speaking of, there's like something that just walked by my window. I don't know what that was.
It's like
yeah. Don't like that. But anyway, it was these articles CERN talking about, and it's so funny because like you have this institute, this very material institute. They're talking about logic and science and math and physics, and then they're like, we don't know what this is. Like we can't pinpoint what's going on here.
So there's this like, okay, I'm gonna do an Office joke. Did you watch The Office?
Okay. Oh yeah.
Okay, of course you did. So there's Kevin, and at the end you find out that he's been making his numbers work because he can add a Clevin. Like he just made up a number to make a. First of all, actually, what's really funny is he's obvious. That's like a genius. Like that would be such an unsimple thing to do. I love that because he's actually secretly very smart. But that's sort of what we've done is been like a lot of the scientists are the stuff around everything that we think we can predict. There's this variable that affects everything that we kind of like, we're like, okay, well, we can put in a variable to make it do what we want to try to understand, but it's an unknown thing. When things don't behave the way we expect, there's an unknown thing that we can't figure out. But it's like that unknown thing isn't another scientific. I mean, it's another scientific thing. It's randomness. That's the thing. It's random. We like don't want to admit that randomness exists, and that's so. Do you see how I'm talking about a soul? Like if our brain, if our whole existence is only a function of our neurons and our like, it should be 100% predictable
all the time.
It should be there should be a way that for sure people.
Because there's no variable. Yeah.
There's no I mean, like given. Because if you gave me the same person, the same scenario, my brain is the same thing, and I answer a question at a different day, it's going to be different. And okay, then the circumstances are different, but it's like, people are not that particular. So it's like, really, that applies to consciousness because consciousness does not exist outside of our universe. Like, so it still follows the laws of our universe. We just don't know what all those laws are. But pretending like it's this magical thing that is like separate and we can't understand, like it's also not that. So it can't be like, we're not machines. That's the thing. So if we're not, then our soul has to be something else, or at least our spirit has to be something else. Is
this like Einstein's spooky actions at a distance?
Are you talking about like in quantum entanglement?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard that. I mean, quantum entanglement, yes. Spooky actions at a distance, I do not know, but that's the only thing. That's what it sounded like.
That is exactly it. But real quick, I just quickly Googled CERN ghost, and all of these articles: scientists search for mysterious ghost particles, physicists capture elusive 4D ghosts in CERN particles, physicists found ghosts haunting the world's biggest hadron collider. What? Ghost in the machine, hunting for ghost particles. Like there's
gonna make a ghost in the machine joke, but like what?
Yeah. So it boiled down. We've been spinning this thing around trying to get the God particle, and instead they're like, it's just ghosts.
I need to read that because I do not understand. I'm like, how? What? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, that's kind of it's the Clevin. It's like the universal. It's like, what can we do? Like, we don't know what it is, so it's like we don't know what it is.
That's exactly it.
Okay, so I'm gonna get even weirder.
Okay.
Are you ready? Okay. I don't remember who I got this from. Just so you know, I read so many books. I used to do this all the time. I read so many books that people be like, "Wow, that's cool," and I'm like, I didn't make it up. I read it in a book. So like, I don't get credit, and it's like, what I don't know.
I don't know a book. Yeah.
Like, where else do you read? Where else do you learn things? My husband's always like, yeah, but you learned it. And so I learned this, but I know this wasn't my idea, but I don't remember where I got it. Okay. It's probably combined with lots of people's ideas. But Oh no, this part I know. Tim Alberino pointed this out, and he's weird, and I like his theology is like so sound and so beautiful. And then
Yeah.
he says stuff that I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
There's
And
a
so
lot
like
of, yeah,
I
there's,
do not endorse everything he says. I
sure.
kind of like love him. I think he's awesome. And again, his eschatology is so beautiful that he gets about even some of the alien, like I'm like, look, I've read the disclosures. I'm like freaked out myself now, but I still, some of his stuff, he's
Some of
like,
his
no,
stuff
for
is
sure
like,
this is what's happening. And I'm like, how?
yeah,
No.
yeah.
But
Some people are like, this is a fact.
this
And
is
you're
a
like,
fact.
I
And
don't
it's like, but
think, but
why?
all
Did
right.
you see it with your own eye? Like, have you?
Right.
And some of them say yes. And so even then, like, what do you say?
Right.
Now, like now you're arguing with a potentially crazy person or a genius, and you never know. However, this
Exactly.
part is totally valid because it's biblical and I can back it up. He talks about how what he pointed out this that sent me down this whole rabbit hole, which is why I was like, we actually have to resurrect this topic, which I forgot was one of the things that led me there. He talks about how like there were legions of demons in some place and it could go into a person. And like even into pigs, right? So like even to animals, and they could decide what it does. So there is a space where a spirit, not just a spirit, but a ton of spirits can fit. They go into you, they take over, they take over your body, they control some of your mind, like they can control the expression of things, but not, they don't always have control, but they're in there, they can stay in there, and then you can be aware they're in there. Your soul, your spirit's still in there, but it's not, there's this space, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if there is a space, where is it? Because it's not in us physically. We can't, there, like maybe, but what that made me think was that, okay, we are, Michio Kaku is you know who that is? He's like a quantum physicist. I talked about him on on the last one. So Michio Kaku comes up again. But he believes that there are 11 dimensions, I think. And he's a quantum physicist. He is not a Christian, but he is not, and this is not weird. He is like the top, one of the leading quantum physicists. Sure. It's not just him. The idea is that they believe there are roughly 11 dimensions, not parallel universes. Dimensions in the first dimension is flat, second dimension, is a dot, line, three-dimensional shape,
Sure.
Fourth dimension is that three-dimensional shape moving through space and time,
yes.
Which is time. Space-time is the fourth dimension, right? We can't see space-time, but we're living in it. So what else are there now? The fifth, the spiritual dimension, the whatever, 11. Okay. So there are things that exist that are real that we're not perceiving, but they're not parallel universes. They're not like whole worlds but we're occupying the same universe, but we're not perceiving. Maybe they're not perceiving us, but we're for sure not perceiving that, right?
Yeah.
So that is also something. Well, that's Tim Alberino said that, but he didn't make that up. That's just the way that it is. He talked about like the spirits kind of obviously in another, he thinks another dimension rather than, but all he means by that is they're not being perceived instead of not, they're like in a different physical place, like necessarily. I mean, they can be also, but that's a different thing. But so then I'm thinking about like,
that makes perfect sense to me though. Like, isn't like, that's,
it makes so much more sense. It's so much easier and cleaner.
It would be crazier if someone said like there aren't other dimensions. Like that makes no sense to me.
I mean, there have to be.
Right.
Because there's unobservable stuff that is going on, and like the fact that space-time is not consistent, that it's totally dependent on mass, it's dependent on physicality. There is something. Time itself is impacted by mass. Everything is not as separate as we think. Because the greater the mass, the greater the gravity, the faster the time goes. So, yes. Wait, did I say that right? I always forget that if you move further, like which one's faster and which one's slower, but it doesn't matter. It's impacted by gravity, whatever. I was like going back. I was like, wait a minute. I always do this. Like I have to be like in Interstellar. What happened?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, when I can remember, like,
yeah,
wait, you lived longer while other people got old. Okay, time goes slower in extreme gravity. Okay, whatever. That still doesn't feel right. I'm like not saying
no, that's right.
That's right. Okay. So that's right. Things move faster. Less gravity goes faster because like a fly, very light, it moves very fast.
Time.
And so its heart, like its organs, its wings beat faster. It's perceiving life it moved faster, but everything seems slower to it. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, so everything else seems to be moving faster. So I mean, slow to it. It's moving fast. So all that is so not important, except to say that the physical world, the something 3-dimensional is impacting something 4-dimensional, right? They're interacting still.
Sure.
Much like a 3-dimensional plane, thing could impact something 2-dimensional. Like those things, they interact. I mean, the dimensions are also built on each other, obviously, because there's a dot and then a line and then a shape and then a cube and then and the cube moving through space. They all interact. We just don't know what the other levels are. We can't perceive them. So what if there is an actual, maybe not biological, but maybe that we're not perceiving, that is a space for our spirit, like that we are actually dimensional beings, where our body is existing in this dimension and is locked, and our soul, I believe our soul and mind are locked into 4 dimensions. We are slaves to time. We talked about this before. Okay, but our spirit is not. Our spirit is but it is still it is still part of us, I think, and physically in our space. Like, I think it's attached to us. So when our body dies, like I think physically our spirit moves and goes someplace else. But there is a thing, it's just an interdimensional thing that
I agree.
And I think the soul is the thing that ties it together. I think the soul is the space where it goes. And so,
okay,
like, so that's the best I can say it. I feel like the soul is the space.
I like that.
So if our soul, I mean, theoretically, if our soul and it, is created with our body, could our spirits inhabit it? Like, and they were something else? I don't know. I still think that they were created at the same time, but I don't know if they're made to go live there yet. If God doesn't put the spirit in until it's able to like filter it and can handle it. But I believe life begins at conception, so I would be very clear on that.
Right.
But I'm talking about like where the life is, where the spirit is what we don't know. So yeah, so I like when that part of us isn't susceptible to time, right? Which is like, aren't there times when time stops meaning anything to you?
Yes.
And when are those times? When you're connected, when you are in, when your body and the messages of your mind and body are quieter, and you're in the spirit, like you're living in the spirit. When you praise and worship and you're praying and it can go like forever and you doesn't feel like it, like that sort of thing. I don't know. I think there's something to that, something about time and how it interacts with our spirits that cause us to be limited. Does that make sense?
No, to me that makes sense.
Okay. I could tell by your face, but like I was like, wait, it either makes sense or doesn't at all, but it's something.
No, I love that. And the interstellar visual of it being time, and that's what's affecting it.
Interstellar
really
is like it is not like obviously 100% correct and possible, but it is so good for visualizing.
It's a good visual.
Space-time. Like, to imagine how that could work, just to like put it in your mind in a way that you can track.
So you can literally see.
We watched it on our honeymoon. Like, we have rented this like villa at the coolest, oh my gosh, this place. And at like a winery, this big winery resort thing. But and then we had this huge, beautiful TV, and it was all doors open out looking over the Carmel Valley. Like vineyards in the Carmel Valley, you could see nothing but that and stars and stars and stars. But in between these two doors were a massive TV in the middle. And so it was like all doors open to that. And then we watched Interstellar, and it was so creepy and so beautiful and wonderful. It was like,
it's one of those movies that I like to watch like once a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I've watched only once since then. But like that, I was like watching this like with the stars at night is like the way to do it. It was beautiful. But I also a little creepy. Like, you're like, yeah, the space is right there. It's like right there.
It's right there. And like, you can't stop thinking about it then.
Like, it's so much closer than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
It really is closer than I'm comfortable with. It's very close. Yeah. The atmosphere is not that big. So yeah, I think that we have, all right. So when we get into this, what do you think of things like kindred spirits and soulmates? I know I'm baiting you now because I don't have, this is just controversial. I don't even have.
I know. I don't believe in soulmates. Kindred spirits.
You know what's funny? It's like kindred spirits is so much better because
It is.
it's not one person, it's just a spirit who yours like clicks with.
You just meet exactly. So that term doesn't bother me, but soulmates, like there's
Soulmates
something
has
about
same energy.
yeah. Yeah. It's like I don't
Well, does soulmates actually mean, does it actually mean that you like are resurrected, like that you're not resurrected,
yeah, that you've like
together in every life?
you've
Is that
like
what
done
means?
go ahead. What'd
No,
you say?
is that what soulmates means, that you're reincarnated together every time, or is that twin flames? Or is it both?
Oh, I don't know what the difference is. Hold on.
So I certainly don't believe that because I don't believe in reincarnation. It is a beautiful thought. It's a wonderful thought to be like, oh, and we find each other in every life and we're
Yes.
all, but I don't think that because I don't think we have this. Like,
Twin flames come together energetically on a divine level. Their connection is more of a higher power to enrich the other's life, where a soulmate connection is more concentrated on learning and growth purposes for each individual.
that's, people have added their own semantic definition.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense
That's
to
like,
me.
that's nothing. But like, I agree. I don't think soulmates, like, I think there are, but kindred spirits is like, we're, I think it's, oh my gosh, Emily Dickinson, who said, whatever souls are made of, yours and mine are the same, but it might be a Bronte. I'm not sure. Now I need to know. Is that,
Because there definitely are certain people, and
like, I was gonna say, like, we're kindred spirits, like,
yes, like there are people that you meet and you're automatically drawn to, you have a connection, you get along flawlessly, and there's something there.
oh, it's Emily Bronte, but I knew there was an
It was Emily
Dickinson, but it is a Bronte because it was from Wuthering Heights. But I was close. I said or that, but
and
whatever souls are made of, his and mine are the same. But like,
I love that.
But it's like that feels more right. Like a kindred
feels
spirit, like we, you know,
Yes.
yeah, bosom buddy, like bosom friends, like Anne and Diana.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking of, was really Anne and Diana is what I think of about, you know, from Anne of Green Gables. I assume you know that, but
I like that idea much more. Like I said, I just the soulmate thing, it's never felt right.
it doesn't. Well, it feels like really the soul that we were meant to, like, our only soulmate is probably Christ. Like, probably realistically, if you
like you're not gonna feel at home ever until that point. Like you're not gonna feel 100% complete.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because you know what? It's not like I'm married to my kindred spirit. I'm married to, if there was a soulmate, I have mine for sure.
Yeah.
But like, the husband already covers that. We are one flesh. Like, we are knitted together by God. Like, that's what has woven us together. Because like, we chose each other. We chose a kindred spirit. We chose somebody that is our best friend, that we get along with, or we like to hang out. I wouldn't rather spend my time with anybody else. But it's God that made our souls one thing. It's our marriage and our covenant. So yeah, so I think just mate's enough. Like, I think that the spouse is enough. Like,
yes.
And kindred spirits feels good to me because it's like kindred, like alike. They're alike.
Yes.
They fit together. They complement one another. And it's a beautiful idea. I love the idea of soulmates. I've said I had soulmate, like soul friends.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it's kindred spirits. It's not
right. No, I know exactly.
We're destined to always and only be together and no one else. Because
yeah.
I
even feel that way. Like, obviously, I've had pets before, but like Fran is like my soul dog. Like, I know that's cheesy, and I know people are like, you know, not for animals or whatever, but Fran.
Oh, I think, you want to hear my thought? I think animals have spirits and souls.
So do I. I think they have souls, and I think we're gonna get animals in the next life.
So Eden was what Earth was supposed to be.
Yeah.
The new heaven and new earth is, Eden was the prototype for that. There
Right.
are animals in it. Why is he going to make a bunch of animals and then
And
they
then
die
get
and
rid
then
of
he
them.
makes new ones? No, he's going to resurrect the animals the plants, the trees, the things we like. I don't know. Remember Mushroom Jesus? Didn't we talk about Mushroom Jesus?
Yeah.
There's a Mushroom Jesus. Like, I don't know, but like Jesus can reveal himself to anyone and everyone. We are his imagers. I get that. We will always be the imagers, but that doesn't mean we are the only thing that's good.
Oh,
So like
absolutely.
dogs are still good, mushrooms are still good. I think that okay, there are enough reasons. One is tell me that animals aren't capable of love. Try
Oh,
telling me that.
exactly. Like the purest form too.
Like it's not just you feed me. It's not. I'm sorry,
No.
but like look at a dog who never leaves the grave of its person, and like I'm sorry, I just don't buy it.
I know.
Dolphins might not. Dolphins might actually just be very intelligent
Yeah.
and evil. Like that might be what happens when a very intelligent animal doesn't have a soul because they're evil. Um, so maybe dolphins. All of us kids who wanted to be marine biologists growing up, which is like every kid my age, and then now we're like, nah,
No, that's true. That was the only like career option.
right?
You were like, I want to be a marine biologist.
I'm a biologist. Like it's Lisa Frank's fault.
It
Those cute dolphins and whales and like, yeah, it was cute. Um, I mean, and unicorn tigers and whatever, but uh, hybrids, man.
Oh my god. All right, I'm going to rest my soul and spirit. I think it's almost 10 o'clock.
Oh, it
So
is.
I
Yeah,
feel like yeah, I feel like this is a good cutting off
this is good.
point.
We're just being silly now,
Yeah.
which is fine, but we are just kind of being silly. Okay, so, well, I have been thinking about closing us in prayer, um,
Okay.
like on this podcast, and I don't know if I'm going to do it every time, but I feel like it now. You know, I love to pray. If you watch the recordings or you go on the God Talk, you know I like to pray. Um, but it's a little different when it's like for this. And so I pray, and I am not like an organized prayer. I like let God take over. So I ramble until God picks it up. And so it sounds rambling and weird, and I don't know what's going to happen, and maybe it'll be short. So I feel a little vulnerable about it, but I feel like we have a something we intend for this podcast to be, and like this can't hurt, right?
Sure.
All right. First of all, I love you. I'll say I love you and goodbye, and then we'll pray, and then I'll end it. Okay.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing back my Elise today and for giving us this time together and for knitting us together in this friendship um, in our souls, along with all these other women that we love so much and we have become so close to. You are doing something and we are part of it. And that is thrilling and delightful. And we are so grateful and humbled by that. Father, just continue to bless each of us. Please continue to grow us, sanctify us, help us get to know you better, get to know your word better, and get to live it better constantly. Help us to be uh, tools in your hand to do your work, to be your hands and feet, and mostly to do that by loving people and sharing you with them, because that's the main thing. And we want to keep the main thing, even though we like to get a little weird. So bless us and protect us with guardrails when we get weird. Surround us with your protection and angels. Surround us with your love. Fill us with your Holy Spirit. And we know you're a good God. Show us. Show us how good you are while we're in the land of the living, because we believe we will see it here. Thank you for your abundant blessings. Thank you for the people listening. Bless them with this. Bless them in their lives and help them to find you and to become closer to you. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Bye.